Record to the cloud. Okay, everybody, welcome. I'm Dr. Muriel Rand, and I have with me Chris Schomburg, Dana Mason, and Jennifer Pax. And we've been working as a team for the last year on a Title V grant entitled Professional Pathways that is that one of the targets is professional development to help instructors be more effective, both online and in person. So we've done a series of workshops. We'll come back to that at the end and give you the link so that you can look at the other ones if you want to. But today we're going to be focusing on engaging students with student-centered AI projects in NotebookLM. And I think you're going to have a great time. This is very cool. We're all very excited, and we've been going crazy exploring what NotebookLM can do. So I'm going to turn this over to Dana, who's going to explain what the heck NotebookLM is.
Hi, everybody. Um, so welcome. Thank you for spending your Friday morning with us. I think you're going to really enjoy this tool. It's something that I like as well. There's a lot of nice features, and it differs from a lot of the other LLMs and natural language processing that we've known thus far. So NotebookLM, short for language model. And this is a research tool that you can use for a variety of things. It is a Google product. We're used to a lot of OpenAI, Microsoft, and other types of things as well. But this fits in nicely with the Google ecosystem and can be used outside of it simultaneously with a Microsoft ecosystem or beyond. Um, so that's a really great tool for a lot of reasons. It helps with interacting with your documents and sources that you put in different ways to help make sure that you're hitting your main ideas, that you're producing the content that you need. And it's a great tool. So if we go on to the next slide, um, what does Notebook LM do? So this is great for creating projects. In our presentation today, you're going to see a lot of demos, examples, and things like that. So I'm not going to spend time on that. I'm just going to go through some of the explanation of what it can do, how we can use it. But my colleagues will dive a little deeper into that too. So there'll be some hands-on stuff you can follow along with at the same time. So there are three windows in Notebook LM when you go into it. And you'll see that picture in the next slide shortly. The first one is sources. Actually, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. So you can look on at the same time that I'm kind of explaining. So sources is the first one, and this is where you can upload materials. So you could put in your PDFs, your YouTube links, websites, URLs, anything you like. So you have that option to bring in your own sources, which is great if you're researching and you found things that you're working from. You can also bring in and search. If you look, there's like a search bar in there, like before all those sources and with the little red PDF icon. You can actually search through NotebookLM and it'll help you find sources if you'd like to add to your existing things. Or if you know of a great source that you would like to search through them to bring up, it's the same thing. You can bring in your content in two separate ways. Then you have the chat option. The chat is where you can engage with your material. So if you've used any sort of large language model, ChatGPT happens to be one I've been relying on for certain types of things I've been doing here and there, but many of them will go back and forth and partner with you. So if you ask for something, it may ask you a question back and say, okay, well, you're asking for this. I can actually give you, or the data you're asking for is not readily available. So would you like me to give you a version of this? It really helps you kind of look at it from a few different angles so it can be refined and give you the best approach that you need. In this area, the chat, this is kind of what you're coming up with. It'll give output, it'll give you suggestions and things like that. And you can look through and let it know how accurate it was for what you needed. This way, it kind of learns what your process is and how it works with you. Over time, it only gets better. So then the last area is the studio. I really like this one a lot. If you look on the side, we're going to go into all these features, but this allows you to differentiate how you're getting your information and how you are, I guess, showcasing it to your particular audience or for yourself, depending on your particular needs. And as educators, we're constantly looking for interesting ways to differentiate content. How many times we have to say the same thing often in our writing, and we're looking for new ways to kind of spin it around and offer different insight. This will help with in certain types of ways as well. So we're going to talk about that shortly. So if we go to the next slide. Sorry. So what you're going to do for Notebook LM is you just go to this website, notebooklm.google.com. Actually, hold on, let me put that in the chat too. Make it a little easy. Awesome, thanks. So, and then just log in with your particular Google ID. If you have a Google account, if you don't, you can sign up for one. It's free. It's wonderful. I think many people do these days. But as you go in, you sign up for that. On the next slide, You can create your audio and your video references and overviews by putting in your information, just like we said. The step one is the upload to your sources section. You put in all what you have or what you'd like to use. Now, one of the things I really like about this, and I'm probably going to repeat myself because it's the way it works is unique. When you use something like a different type of large language model like ChatGPT or other ones, they're searching for what's available out there in the public domain. So some of the problems that we're coming across with our students is plagiarism, hallucination, accuracy of information, and it's hard to verify some of it. They'll often give you a link so you can check and see if that source that it used to justify the language it gave you is actually on point with what you're looking for. And that's helpful, but I do know that people are starting to learn how to verify, and it's not really second nature, especially when we're dealing with students. It's done for you. It sounds better than maybe what I would have written, and it's really easy to just hit launch on that and use what's there. And then when we review things, you're realizing you're reviewing a lot of things that were done by a computer. What did your student learn? And it brings us back to that ethical consideration. This is a nice feature because in NotebookLM, you bring in your sources. So the onus is still on the individual. The student still has to know how to research. The student still has to know what sources to bring in or can use it by bringing in different sources specifically through this platform. It also doesn't share your information. So, what we have to be careful with in other large language models is what you put in, it uses to learn from and then continue to grow. So, if you're putting in something that might be sensitive or something you're working on, that information is now part of the database. It's out there. And it doesn't necessarily link back to you, but it's information that could influence how other results are coming up for other people that are using it. There's a lot of considerations and privacy as well. That's where a lot of the hallucination, I think, comes in because if it doesn't have some of, like, let's say ChatGPT doesn't have an answer, it will kind of force an answer or kind of rationalize to its best ability. And we know it's imperfect, and it's a lot of stock that we put into a machine when we might not have the time to verify. This helps. You're putting in verified sources, you're putting in things that work truly well because you know you've looked at them. You could even provide sources for your students who are learning how to use this so that you know they're working with great things. So we can go actually on to the next one. So different types of file types and things you could bring in. It works across all formats. So pasted text, videos, audio, text. You can bring in YouTube links, images, websites. It allows you to interact not only with text, but also with video and different sections like that as well. So it's not just written sources. Now, yep, next slide. Perfect. um, so with this one, in your chat section, you'll see suggestions of what it brings up. You'll be able to interact with it. You'll be able to save different notes. It'll reduce down and give you highlights and different suggestions for things that you're using as it starts to refine what you need of it. Now, on the next slide, this is one of my favorite things. Creating the audio and video. Oh, sorry, am I on the right one? Nope, I clicked the wrong one. I'm following along in with what's on the screen, but there's some things I want to bring in from the previous slides as well, so don't mind me. So on this slide, what I like about it is this is the third section we were talking about, all the applications that they have. So if you put in all your sources, you've refined what you want through the chat, you can click here and it'll give you an audio overview. In times, it'll even create a podcast. So if you learn better by listening to things, it'll talk about it from different perspectives and actually have a full discussion. How often do we learn well by learning and listening and following along in that sort of format? It hits different learning styles in great ways. You can mind map things and get a nice graphic to go along with what you've come up with in this particular type of research you've done. Infographics. It'll do flashcards. So if you wanted to put a chapter in there that your students are working on or encourage them to do so, it'll bring out main ideas. It'll help you if you wanted to develop quiz work that way or allow them to, all right, these are the hitting the main ideas so that you're on it. Let's ask flashcards and go through so you can prepare. Data tables are great for that as well. It'll help give you reduced information so that it's right there at your fingertips. But it'll also produce slides. You'll see some examples of that from my colleagues that I'll show you next. It had some great ways of saving a lot of time. And of course, we always verify everything to make sure it's what we want to get out there and it's hitting the mark of what we're looking to achieve. But it's really great to have a template sometimes to start from. It's easier in some cases to adapt as opposed to start from scratch. And in this day and age, there's a lot going on, so it really does help us. But these are all different ways, 9 different options that you have, and there's editable features within each. So it's a great way to explore, have your students explore. It's one of my favorite things. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rand. She'll be able to share a little more.
We're going to share some project examples now and how we've recently used NotebookLM. And I'm going to start off. I'm teaching an undergraduate social work research class. and they've been working with research, developing research questions. And the assignment required them to find 3 to 5 journal articles that report original research on their topic. We used Google Scholar and other more traditional ways to find those articles. We did not use AI to get the sources. We got the sources more traditionally, like the way I would normally do it. Then we imported those articles into NotebookLM. We did this during class while I was there to support them. This is a synchronous online class. And then we played around with using the chat function and the studio to interact with those research papers. They had to write a summary of what they learned and share what they did in the studio and think about how they might use NotebookLM in their professional work as a social worker. So this was one of the ones that my students submitted. This is the sleep GPA connection. Her question was, how much does sleep improve college students' GPAs? Love the question. If only they would listen to this. Uh, and this is a typical infographic that Notebook LM creates. And you'll notice it's pretty good because it's only using the sources that she put in. It's not drawing from all of the crap that's out there online. It's very carefully curated. This is another, they do mind maps. And this is a mind map that one of my students was looking at the behavioral effects of divorce on children. And you can see these are the topics that it came up with from the articles that they put in. And when you click on each one of these, you can get, it goes into more detail, more detail, more detail. So it's a great way to help them organize a research paper to get more information. Um, you know what, Chris, before you go, I want to show them, um, the PowerPoint that I just created with this for my class last night. I was teaching them, this is an ethics class, and I was teaching them about duty to warn and the law in New Jersey. And this is so I put in 2 articles. One was on, Jennifer, these are the ones you gave me. I put in the 2 articles on duty to warn. One was specific to New Jersey and the state statutes, and the other one was the history of the legal precedents. And this is the PowerPoint it created. Check this out. And it's all accurate. I went through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it was all accurate. And it's all accurate because it used my sources. To me, this is like a game changer because I don't have to worry about it coming up with nonsense. And it explains it really well. I thought it broke it down into slides really well. Look at it, even gave a decision matrix and an implementation checklist. So you can also use it for yourself. I mean, our goal here is to use it with students, but you can also use it for yourself. All right, Chris, I'm going to take you. Here we go. Wait a minute. Where was I supposed to put you?
I'm good here. This is
Okay,
fine. This is good.
I think this was it.
All right. Thanks
And you can take
everybody.
over.
Let me share my screen for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review 3 NotebookLM projects. One that's just my own research, one that's research I'm doing with students, and one that's a student project where they use NotebookLM. So it's like a sliding scale. But I'm really not going to be starting in order because I just thought it'd be easier to do this way. Before we get started, does anyone have a basic question about how NotebookLM works or well, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. 1 second, let me just share. Okay. Is everybody seeing my screen? You're seeing a NotebookLM? All right, good. So I've got 3 projects to share, and then we're going to do a hands-on project that we're going to do together. It's going to be fast, and we're cutting corners. I sort of feel this is sort of like the chef. I've chopped all the vegetables for you, so I have more robust PDFs for you to follow if you want to do it on your own and you want to do it sort of more robustly and more correctly.
Chris,
Yeah.
Adria has her hand up.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry.
Hi, Chris. Yes, just very quickly. So I just want to clarify that if we put our intellectual property out there, it is available to the whole world, right?
No, that's a great question. And actually, I looked into this because one of my research projects, I put up copyrighted material that I was using under fair use. The
Right.
policy of Notebook LM is that your material is not used for training, not used publicly, and not used for the library. So
Oh,
it's sort of honestly, I look at it as like of course, that's what they say, and they're a large corporation,
uh,
but I actually have that cited. If you email me afterwards, I'll give you the citation for their privacy or the
great. Make
confidentiality
sure
policy.
that you guys give us your contact details because
Will do.
I'm loving this.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because what I did put up data that it was anonymous and it was actually it was publicly available, but I was
Okay,
still a little curious about what would happen if that wasn't the case. And
exactly.
again, I put up a copy. The second or third project I'm going to show you, I scanned a PDF from a book that was not
Right,
available online
right.
because I wanted that information in there, and I'm like, well. I don't have any problems doing it if it's my own research, but if I'm taking this person's material and giving it to a corporation to monetize, that would be an
Yeah,
ethical problem, especially if I was going to get this article published.
sure.
That's a red flag right there. So I felt for the article I had to not only follow ethical guidelines, but be able to explain myself. So great question.
Thank you, thank you.
And yeah, please send me. I'll definitely send you more than enough citations
Okay, good, good, good.
from their policies.
Beautiful.
All right, so everyone's seeing my screen, right? It's the
Yeah.
three. All right, all right. So this is one project. This is a good one to start with. It's a project I'm kind of using for a class, but it was my own research. It's part of my own research. I did a systematic literature review of ABD, all but dissertation, right? So this is the 19 articles over the last 22 years that cover why people are in prolonged or indefinite all but dissertation statuses. It's part of the larger research on graduate persistence. But again, Muriel alluded to this. One thing that this is one advantage this has over um, commercial AIs is that ChatGPT or Copilot, they're using mostly publicly available data sets.
Hmm.
Here, I got these informations from ProQuest. I downloaded the PDFs, and again, I copyright that confidential the access question came in, and I uploaded them. So these are 19 articles on all but dissertation persistence literature that I'm doing a lit review for. It's a little bigger than that, but let's keep that for here. So I uploaded all the files here. They're all 19 articles from the last 22 years. Here's the chat, and I've been playing around with different uh, studio products. So, big question. Um, why do uh, people have prolonged or indefinite ABD status? All right. So it's going to take about 30 seconds to think, but it's retrieving the details. It's looking at all of those 19 sources, those 19 peer-reviewed articles, getting the context. And what's great about this, in this answer, it will cite the sources so that I gave. So it'll have little numbers that it gives here. Um, drum roll. I mean, this is, I'm talking here to build the tension while it works. All right, it's synthesizing foundational issues. It's pinpointing program difficulties. It's integrating new elements. It's connecting additional details. It's categorizing core aspects. Uh, it's defining key contributing factors. It's integrating life challenges, analyzing cultural context. So here's what it's thinking. All right, here it comes.
Okay.
All right, so lack of it. So it comes up with the reasons. And I actually read all these 19 articles, and this does ring true.
Excellent.
Physical distance, psychological and emotional structures, cultural and systemic barriers, um, abrupt shift to unstructured independent work. All things that ring true and are all in the literature.
In the literature.
Um,
Okay.
All right, so you could ask it a series of questions. Anything you really want, like what advice would you give to someone starting a doctoral program? What advice would you give to a student? Now, also in a studio here, you can make content. So you could do, here's a few I did already. Um, I did a podcast. So say I want a podcast. All right. So here's one thing that comes through the literature. Is it a system? Is it a systems failure? Is it an organizational failure? Or is it a student failure? Do you blame the students or do you blame the system? Right? And that's the tension throughout this literature. It's pretty interesting. So let's say we want an audio overview. These are sort of podcasty like things. And I want to do a customize. I want to debate, but I want to customize it. What should the AI focus on in this episode? So I want to debate and I wanted to focus on this. I wanted to, one side should focus on blaming the students for ADD, and the other side should blame the institution. All right, so it's going to generate it. This take a few minutes. Luckily, I did it before, so I did debate. So that's what I did here. So let me play this. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. Probably not.
Maybe you haven't actually earned the degree.
Can you hear it? Yeah.
ED status, I think, is usually a failure of personal responsibility, not institutional support.
Wow, personal responsibility. That is a very convenient way for universities to cash tuition checks for years without actually providing a service.
It's not about convenience, it's about the very nature of the degree. Let's look at the framework developed by Kluver and Green. They use something called the responsibility scale to analyze how.
All right. So now they're citing the 19 articles I have there. In that, and again, like instant gratification, it's thinking now, but it took about 3 minutes to generate that audio podcast.
Chris,
And yeah,
Audrey has a question.
Audrey, yeah, please.
Hi guys. So first, sorry I was late. So I have a question about if you asked, instead of asking for summary, if you asked for it to use to provide you with quotations and to write a paragraph with direct quotations, that's where ChatGPT, for example, hallucinates a lot. Can it do that?
I've never tested that out. I guess let's give it a shot. Let's do a report. See if I can customize this report. Create your own.
Doc, study
Uh,
guide.
let's see. Develop a short report that quotes the documents and places and focuses on institutional responsibility and the problem with it doesn't mind my bad spelling, but I fix it anyway. All right, so let's see. Let's make it 4 pages. 4 2. All right, quotes the documents. That's a good one. So generating a report based on 19 sources. I will, Audrey, I don't want to take up more time, but I will go back and get you back on if it does, if the citations are correct. Watching me check citations now isn't thrilling television. All right. Well, that's doing that. It'll take about 2 or 3 minutes to get. Let me keep going on here. So you could do other, like I said, the audio, the reports, the flashcards, the quizzes, all things you could do. I actually haven't found, honestly, I haven't found a need for any of those. I do a basic report, but I do have a student project that I'll share. What I did was I wanted students to use this, but in a sort of proactive way. What I kind of imagined was with AI in general is that you're the master producer and you outsource elements to your workers, right? So the student is in control. So I gave them this project. Let me bring it over here. So in one class, we look at the PISA test, right? It's an international test. This is for a class in global education. So I don't know if you could see it here clearly. So here's what they had to do. I have a whole sort of I'll share it with you. This is about a 2-page. I have a rubric, I have resources, I have a video tutorial. But here's the punchline. Pick any country as part of the PISA program. Use NotebookLM to create 3 different products related to that country in PISA. So there are about 98 countries that participate. Write a report analyzing the process and the content with links to them. So you can link your products. Questions you should consider. Were the products accurate? Were they engaging? What was their perspective? Remember the material in course. I gave them some starting material for the project. Consists of both supportive and critical perspectives. Your final report should be between 750 and 1,000 words. So it was kind of individualized. I gave them the foundational materials. I had to add material. But what I wanted to keep their eye on was that the sources of the material should be balanced. And again, that's a sort of discussable topic. And then they should critically examine the kind of content. Was it engaging? Was it accurate? As the whole process. So sort of looking under the hood of this project. And let me show you the basics of that one. That was pieces of global ed. So, and actually, I got some great work. These were some of the best. And I also felt that was a little hard, not impossible, for them to have AI generate a report on AI. I mean, it just seemed like too much of a wheel within a wheel. So I got some really good 700 to 1,000 word papers where they were using NotebookLM in a structured way and being critically sort of aware of the products and the sources. All right. The next project is a research. It's part of a larger research project I did. Let me show you this one. And Audrey, I feel like we're a home cooking show. We're baking the dessert right now, but we're going on to cutting the appetizers. We'll get back to that report. This is one I had a lot of fun with. This was research I did on how people learn fitness when they're senior citizens. How older people think about fitness. It's kind of a long, interesting research project. I looked at the top 10 YouTube videos on senior fitness. I web scraped all the comments. So this is a project I've been thinking about for 2 years. So I had 13,000 YouTube comments, and there's no way. I actually started analyzing myself. It was going to take forever. I did a sample of them. It took me a long time. I did like 500 on my own, and it was still taking forever. But then I'm like, well, let me try NotebookLM and other AIs to analyze this data set, but let me give it a theoretical framework. So there's a woman, Becca Levy, who wrote a book, Breaking the Age Code. So I'm like, well, let me look at Becca Levy as the sort of theoretical lens and have her, what would she do to analyze this data set? How does this data set filter through her theoretical lens? So that's the question I came up with, and I used a bunch of different AIs. But for NotebookLM, I put the data set up here. So that's a PDF of the 13,000 comments. But here's what I thought was really helpful. I found 2 or 3 podcasts where she's interviewed on it. I uploaded them. I found 2 or 3 YouTube videos where she's discussing her book. I put that up. I scanned a chapter from her book, the sort of the punchline, if you will. I put that up. And now it's almost like I guess I watched too much sci-fi as a kid. It's almost like I could have a conversation with her and I get her perspective and opinion on the data set, on anything like, okay, so this is like according to Levy, what is the best advice for staying healthy as a senior? So suffice to say, we did some thematic analysis, and she came up with different themes of the 13,000, or the AI came up with themes of the 13,000 comments, and this is part of a project. I did it with 3 different AIs, and then I looked at the kind of themes across them. Um, so again, what I liked about this is you could put different types of material up here. I put in
Mhm.
the chapter from her book. I put in some videos, put in some podcasts. Oh, I also put an article. Here's the sort of researchy part. I wanted to use the thematic analysis of Braun and Clark. They're these really famous qualitative researchers. So I put their chapter, their sort of cookbook on how to do qualitative research. And ABC method, uh, challenge, build a portfolio, find purpose. So again, I thought it was very helpful. All right, so those are 3 projects I wanted to demonstrate. Again, the idea is that you get to add sources, you get to chat, and you get to create different products. Let's take a look back on the report for.
Mhm.
Okay, so all right, 5 minutes ago. Here we go. So I'm looking for quotation marks here quickly, RG. I'm not seeing that. I'll double check this and I'll follow up.
Okay.
All right, so the last thing I wanted to do is give you all a shot at this. So this will be quick, 7-minute version. I do have I'm just looking at the chat, see everybody. A 7-minute version that I do have a PDF that you could has a much more robust version of it. But so if everybody could just go to, if you're following along at home, just go to NotebookLM, create new. And I thought one common topic we could do would be to look at the trend of ungrading. This involves not using grades in higher education. So getting rid of the grades, getting rid of A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, F. All right. E is for effort. So it's going to ask for sources. I have about 10 peer-reviewed journal articles I could send you. Actually, that was my plan A here, but it's going to be easier. It doesn't come up with bad sources. So ungrading in higher. So it's finding sources from. It's going to find 10 or 12 good ones. It did this before. Again, I have a list that you could download, 10 peer-reviewed articles on this. I'm just going to import all. Again, I don't recommend adding sources without checking them, but again, we're just doing a fast and dirty version of this. So again, ungrading. Again, this is I'm gonna put ungrading 3 because I've done this a few times. All right. So define ungrading in a simple way. Simple 3 to 5 sentence. So again, it's reading the sources. And what I like about this is that in the chat and even in the studio, it will cite the sources you give. So if you're responsible for the sources, you just have to sort of verify that it put it in a sort of logical, coherent, unironic way.
Okay. Create your notebook.
And again, while I was thinking of that, in the studio, you could think of different ways to approach this. You could have reports, a video overview, audio overview, slide deck, infographic, um, and you could have all different ways. Again, I've never used those for myself personally, except to assign students. So ungrading is a broad pedagogy. So here's the definition. Ungrading is a broad pedagogical approach that minimizes or entirely eliminates traditional alphanumeric grades and point-based systems in favor of qualitative evaluations. So 1 and 2. So it's citing both 2 sources here. If you put your little mouse over it, it'll give you the sources.
The source.
And it numbers them by yourself over here. Instead of relying on summative score to judge or rank performance, emphasize. So there's a definition, citing the sources, and read and analyze them. Again, I would come over here and create an audio or a video overview, a mind map, a report, or an infographic.
That's great.
Chris, show them the mind map. We haven't really demonstrated that.
Okay. All right. Based on 10 sources. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Let's see how it goes. All right. The taxonomy of alternate assessment. Let's take a look at it. All right. So it identified sort of 5 major points here: core philosophy, key methods, benefits to learner, equity and social, and then implementing the changes. Again, I think what the benefit of this is that one of the benefits of this is that you have the sources. It's easier to sort of verify or confirm that they're doing what you want. You can use sources from a variety of materials. You could balance the sources. So I feel those are the main advantages. For also, what I like too is it's our default is from the literature. Also, it does add, I won't say add, but it's using the Gemini infrastructure to work on this. So it's not solely from your sources. We'll ask questions like, what are the alternatives for a teacher to use instead of grading? I was searching the material for the answers, and all right. So, any questions? I'll wait for this, and this will be my final point. Again, I know I went fast, so let me put these in the chat. Just like that. All right, so it's giving you it's giving alternatives, but here are a couple of links if you want to.
Chris, while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen so that we can go
Okay,
back to
sounds good.
Jennifer.
All right, here's the ungrading project if you want to try that on your own with step-by-step details. And here are the overview of the 3 projects and how to use it with students.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Jennifer is now going to share with us some ideas for professional practice and career possibilities that we can share with our students.
Yes. So I just wanted to say, right, like I was pretty new to NotebookLM, right? It was Chris that really kind of got us hooked, and I've been playing since. And so when I started working with the Notebook LM, I kept thinking like translational science, right? And translational science is historically associated with uh, a lot of medical research, right? And kind of put into place to take a lot of that like lab observations, right? Clinical findings, right? And get it to, get it to be information, right? That public can access, right? And so even though this concept of like translational science or translational research really started it again in a lot of clinical kind of health related medical trials, it really has grown, in the more recent decades. So, for example, at Cornell, there's the Brofenbrenner Center for Translational Research, right? And they do a lot of work, right, expanding the concept across disciplines, right? So being in academia, we realize that there's lots of like detailed information that we have, right? And so some disciplines, it's kind of already baked into what they do to think about like, okay, how does this impact practice? How does this impact policy, right? Whereas like other disciplines, maybe it's not so baked into the discipline. And so I thought that like this was such a great opportunity to really utilize in the classroom in getting your students to do projects that make sense, out in the real world. So I want to go to the next slide. And so in the next slide, I've just kind of identified different ways, right? You could use the Notebook LM, and now I think it's more about reinforcement, right? Because between Muriel, Dana, and Chris, right, there were a lot of examples of taking more dense information, right? And translating that, right, into like infographics, mind mapping. So I have some bullet points here in thinking about like just activities that happen in practice settings, right? And so if we're thinking broadly translation science products, right? Information coming out of the Notebook LM could be incorporated into pamphlets, into posters, right? Into manuals, into briefs, into reports, right? You can use a lot of infographics in the development of employee training presentations, thinking about like website design, right? And some of the infographics that come out of the Notebook LM are quite attractive, right? And very professional. And so you could also think about it in terms of, you know, synthesizing information, not necessarily for like a product that you're utilizing or displaying, right? But synthesizing information to really just directly integrate that into the practice that you're doing, right? So it's really taking like, right, that dense information and making it more user friendly for yourself as the employee. And then as Chris was showing, right, like if your employment is into podcast, right, or making videos or other sorts of media, right, like the products that come out of the Notebook LM can support all of that, right? And we know that like all businesses, all settings, right, have some connection to social media, right? It's kind of like if it's not out there on social media, then it didn't necessarily happen. And it could be helpful in kind of creating data tables or even study materials. There are a lot of professions that also have tests that you have to take in order to continue to progress, or certificates, right? And so it's pretty incredible some of the flashcards it can make, right? And so even like, there's kind of a learning component that we do out in practice as well as we continue to grow in our professions. And so I have this little image in the bottom right corner, and there's a yellow circle and it says TR, which is really standing representing translational research. And the image is showing like the policy, research, and practice, right? And so, there's really just like a space to begin to utilize the Notebook LM, right, by collecting resources even across, right, policy, research, and practice, to um, to create different products, right? Or you could be taking kind of what's the research, right? And kind of moving that into a space of policy, right? Or into a space of practice, right? But it's this idea of, really taking the information out there, right? And trying to make it as useful as it can be in the real world. And then in the next slide, already familiar, right? We introduced you to the mind map. I did like a very simple exercise, right, in sort of the Notebook LM world. And I entered 4 sources, one from the National Institute of the Aging, a source from WebMD, a source from AARP, and from Harvard's Public Policy Institute. And it was just a simple instruction really to compile like essential vitamins and minerals to support healthy aging, right? We know there's lots of information out there, right? But the mind map, right, it created was really very logical, right? And so this is a topic I'm very familiar with in my practice setting, right? But then to like see like, oh, okay, how did this mind mapping match, right? Like knowing that like I've consumed a lot of research in this area, right? And I thought that the mind mapping was really like right on in the way that it organized like vitamins and minerals, other essentials, and some general advice. And then in the next slide, um, this is just an infographic, right, based that was created off of like the same prompt, right? So again, the prompt was kind of simple, right? But in terms of really thinking about like a visual graphic, something very user friendly, right? Like something that could ultimately like be printed, right? Put out into a space, whether it's like doctor's office, it's, skilled nursing facilities, like adult medical daycare centers, right? There's a lot of spaces where this content would be relevant. As also can be created as like a handout, right? So it just, I think Canva, right, was everybody got very excited about Canva, right? And I thought like, wow, like the output here versus like the input involved, right? It's just incredible, right? Like this exercise that I created was like very fast, right? Again, not complex. But the point is, I thought that there was a level of efficiency that's necessary for the real world across all professions, right? Usually there's never enough time. And so to think of like shortcuts and ways to take like what could be a very dense activity, right? Or time consuming outputs, this was just a really exciting tool. I'll defer to my colleagues if you wanted to add anything just for real world application that I might have overlooked.
These are our contacts. Somebody asked for that, so I quick made a slide with our contacts, and so they're all real simple. It's just our first initial, last name. There's nothing unusual about ours. And I wanted to, you know what? I'll drop this. Oh, can I do that? I'm going to drop this link into the chat as well. These are the previous webinars that we did during the fall. And we are going to be presenting at the Day of Pedagogy, which is March 30th. Jennifer, what's our topic for the Day of Pedagogy? Do you remember?
Right. So we're leveraging AI for elevating like teaching and learning,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, we will be at the Day of Pedagogy as a team again, and we are planning one last workshop in April. And tentatively, we're going to be discussing discussions and how we can do better discussions online and in person. So we have a few minutes left. We left about 10 minutes for questions, comments. If anyone's used this, can you share your experiences? I'll just open it to the floor. I'm already starting to think about how I'm going to use this in my personal life. Like putting recipes in there and asking for shopping lists or oh yeah, you want the title slide? Sure. Or I volunteer in community theater. I do costuming, and I'm already thinking about can it create a costume plot for me from a script, because I can put the script in here and not worry about it being out in the internet. So I'm going to play around with it. We'll see. Okay, let me. Dana, this is what you wanted, I think. Great.
Mary, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
It's very cool. Thank you for sharing all these examples. I joined a few minutes late. Is there any like fee associated with it, or are you limited to?
Chris can speak to that.
Yeah, for the basic, you get you can upload 30. If you have a Gmail account,
Mhm.
it's 30. If you pay, I think I paid it's like $10 a month. I get it to 300 and a few extra features. So the short answer is no.
Okay, thank you. No, it's very cool.
The basic functioning is free. but there is an upgrade, and who knows how long that will last. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? How about from the team? Anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, I wish I had it for my policy class last fall. I think we could have had so much fun with it.
Yes.
You know,
I
I
keep
think,
thinking
yeah.
the slideshow yesterday that I used really blew me away. So I'm definitely going to try this in terms of creating slideshow presentations, especially for my own work, right?
Mhm.
I love the idea that I can put my own work in there and it's going to use that to develop my
Mhm.
materials.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. In that case, I am going to stop our recording and